Let's do it. I like this article that you found
Which
about
one?
the sources Ohio State QB Quinn Ewers to enter transfer portal on Yahoo
Yeah.
Sports. I feel like they lay it out pretty good as far as I was reading through it. And like, I feel like you hear little pieces of it. Like everyone like picks like their biggest buzzword piece of it that sounds cool. Like, Quinn gets $1 million deal. Da, 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 da. I'm like, if you look at it in the timeline, of course he did. He was the number one recruit in his recruiting class. So like, yeah. And then everyone made it sound like from what I was interpreting on it, it sounded like the deals that he was signing was solely because he was going to Ohio State. Like it was like Ohio-based companies and things like that. And from what I'm seeing here, that's not the case. Like it's a merchandising company, it's an autograph company. There's a kombucha company that he's signed with. Like it's all these random. So it wouldn't have mattered where he ended up. Like he left early because Texas has a state law that you can't make money off your NIL as an athlete. Like I think it's like them, Texas, Mississippi, and one other place.
Yeah, and he
the only
like
three where you can't do it.
He even like attempted to petition. Like he didn't want to leave high school early. It was kind of like his hand was kind of forced, and I think it's laid out in that article. That we can post the link on the screen for people that are watching this. But like in that article, it's like he petitioned to stay in high school and try and take advantage of the NIL. I think there's one other player, I think it's a basketball player, cannot remember what his name is right now, but he's like one of the top recruits in the country. He's, I believe, possibly going to an HBCU, which is, something we'll get to a little bit later, but like it's, he has already signed an NIL deal and he's still in high school. But for Quinn, he was attempting to do it, but was unable to. They, denied his petition, and that's why he reclassified. It was like, all right, well, then I'm going to go to Ohio State. The money, they weren't shy about saying like, yes, the money is a factor. He's like, I want to be able to help my family and do the things that I need to do to help my family. Right. So like, I don't blame him. But I guess like the big thing about it is that he reclassifies, right? Like a little timeline after, being denied ability to make, money off his name, image, and likeness as a high school student, high school football player. He reclassifies, ends up going to Ohio State, took like less than a handful of snaps while he was there.
I think 4 snaps total or something.
Yeah. And like made money off of his NIL. And now it's all right. I did what I needed to do. Now I'm going to go back to Texas. And, his dad says in that article, and this article obviously came out before he had declared he was going to be going to UT, because I believe it was like Texas Tech, Texas A&M, and UT were like his 3 schools. But like his dad says, it's time for him to come back, time for him to come home, like with all of our circumstances. And obviously they don't owe us any sort of explanation. The transfer portal is what it is for that direct explanation. Like it's there for that reason. He doesn't owe anybody an explanation of anything. So why not go do what you wanted to do at Ohio State? Now you can come back. You've made the impact that you wanted to make to be able to help your family. Now let's move on and, go somewhere where I guess he truly wants to play. From my thinking, I think that maybe he wanted to be at Ohio State and turned out while he was there that it wasn't for him. Or Ohio State was a place where he was able to go because he could reclassify and go there and do the things that he wanted to do with the scholarship that they were offering him and everything else. Whereas maybe, that option wasn't there for UT, right? Maybe he wasn't able to reclassify and go to UT and have a scholarship and everything else. So he went to Ohio State and did what he had to do for a year. Like I said, I don't know all of those circumstances. I don't know if he was going to be able to, but like, what are you thinking in terms of this whole NIL deals and all of these deals that are happening? But this is kind of an outlier. This is obviously we're still within a year of the NIL even being a thing, but like it's still being figured out. And do you think things like this could continue to happen where guys are in high school and they're sitting there and they're like, man, I can make money off my name, image, and likeness right now. Why don't I reclassify and go to this school? and make some money, and then maybe I'll transfer out or maybe I'll stay, whatever it is. Do you see more high school kids reclassifying for NIL deals instead of when they used to reclassify because they were like, well, I have nothing else to prove here in college? There's been a number of quarterbacks. I wish I could name all of them off the top of my head, but I've seen, a number of quarterbacks, a number of guys that have said, I'm going to reclassify and I'm going to go to school right now. I'm ready to go right now. Do you think that this becomes a thing where more and more guys are doing this type of reclassification for the money?
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I do think that high schools, I think at the high school level, you're going to see a change at those schools in those states where you don't have the ability to make the money off of your NIL. I just think in order to be competitive, especially if you're looking at Texas football, for example, is an easy one, right? Like to lose Quinn Ewers for an extra year, people don't realize that means something. Like for Quinn Ewers to not play in his senior year in the UIL state championships, which you all kind of assume Southlake is going to go to, they want to see that bleached mullet in that game. Like there's no doubt about it. And so I think there is going to be a change from that standpoint. But I do think there's just like with anything else, when new things are introduced, the group sort of adapts to whatever that is. And I don't think it's going to become this preposterously common thing. I mean, you look at Quinn, number one recruit, has this opportunity to go to Ohio State. So yeah, that makes sense. He is the outlier in this whole equation. There's the 99% of people that exist in the college athlete sphere, it won't make sense for them to do this. But for the folks that can, and the folks that have that opportunity, yeah, I think it's you absolutely should do it, and you absolutely should go, and you have an opportunity to make life-changing money, to make an impact. It makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. And it's weird that we don't question when they leave a semester early to go get into spring training or spring football for these football guys, right? It's just the next phase or the next progressive step in how college football is evolving specifically. I also don't, it's going to happen here and there, probably a little bit in college basketball as well. It's going to happen here and there, maybe sort of stretched across the other sports, the non-revenue generating sports. But it's such a small sample of people that would have this situation. And that's why it's newsworthy, right? That's why Quinn Ewers is all over the top 5 trending articles on ESPN and Yahoo Sports right now, because it's a weird situation. And he is the first person to sort of do it this way. Mm-hmm. But I would argue, if you look at it objectively, everything he did, if anyone else was in the same position, you would have done the same thing. Like, yeah. I don't know of anybody who wouldn't have done the same thing. I mean, you take just one of his NIL deals, for example, like that's a 7-figure payoff for him and his family as a 17-year-old kid. And all you're telling me is I have to start my college career a year early. I have to start taking classes that are paid for by a scholarship a year early.
Yeah.
That's it. And then he takes 4 snaps. So if I'm understanding correctly, he redshirts. So he doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have they have like 4. It's like 4 games or something like that they can play in, and
yeah,
you can still redshirt. I mean, I know wrestling is trying to get that sort of redshirt put on their sport as well. I think it's only for some of the bigger revenue generating sports like football. Is definitely one of them that takes advantage of it, where a kid can play. You can play the last 4 games. So, you can play in your rivalry game, you can play in the bowl game, you can play playoffs, and you can play in a national championship. And you can still be considered a freshman. You can still redshirt that year. No matter how big those plays were, you can play every single snap in those games, I'm guessing, and still redshirt because it's within 4 games. So for him, it was 4 snaps. So no brainer there. He's definitely going to be redshirting, right? But you kind of go from that top level recruit to another top level recruit making headlines in Travis Hunter, where he was supposed to be going to Florida State. And then on National Signing Day changes. I mean, he informed Florida State before it all happened, but changed his mind and is going to go to Jackson State and HBCU, play for Deion Sanders. And everybody is crying foul saying, oh, the NIL is messing things up. It's doing this, it's doing that. When that the only reason that, the Lane Kiffins and the Dabo Sweeneys are having issues with this is because he's going to an FCS team where it's unheard of and it's a head scratcher, because he's going to be playing for Deion Sanders at Jackson State and an HBCU is being chosen over these blue chip schools because think about it. He says he's going to go to Florida State. He changes his mind and he goes to Alabama. He changes his mind and he goes to Clemson. He changes his mind and he goes to Ohio State. There's no head scratch. There's no, maybe he just, his recruiting trip, Ohio State sways him in the 23rd hour, they sway him, whatever else. No, he changes his mind and he goes to Jackson State. And like I said, an FCS team, an HBCU, but they're being coached by a Hall of Famer and one of, and obviously I am biased because Deion Sanders is my all-time favorite athlete, but one of the best playmakers of all time is now your coach. And they're crying foul and they're saying, NIL this and NIL that. He's signing for this much money. They did this and they did that. I mean, quite possibly, but even if that's true, the rules aren't being violated there, right? Like, or him going to Jackson State and potentially having NIL money on the table is no different than Quinn Ewers going to Ohio State, reclassifying, knowing that there was NIL money on the table. There's no difference. The only difference is that this is a number one recruit in the class going to a school that people don't originally see kids go to. It's changing. Deion is changing the landscape of the game, I think. And one of the texts, my brother and I, we're Florida State fans. So, I'm not going to get upset that a kid is going to go play for Deion. If I was a kid right now being recruited by Deion, I'd probably sign on the dotted line the minute the man called me. But, let's be serious. I text my brother and I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? And he's like, pendulum is swinging. And I'm like, I feel like if this continues to happen, right, this could potentially change a lot on the landscape of football. But one of the things is it's going to change on the field is you could potentially see Jackson State playing a different schedule if they continue to sign these top level blue chip recruits that are very high on the recruiting list. Right. So, I've kind of posed this question, and I would love to hear your outlook on it is, do we start to see this happen more now that the NIL is in play or what? Okay, let me rephrase this. Do we start to see this happen more now that the NIL is in play with, some of the bigger name coaches, black coaches going to HBCUs, or do we see the NCAA try and step in and try and regulate things like this? Because Florida has already tried to pass a bill, and I wish I knew. I didn't read through the whole article, but I saw that there's a proposed bill to stop these things from happening where NIL deals can be used within recruiting or something within Florida, because they're trying to obviously get the best recruits. But do you think that, the NCAA tries to come in and legislate this, or is this going to continue to happen?
Well, I mean, I think on the NCAA side, you can see they already are trying to lean in on certain things. I know Miami and BYU are already under investigation for NIL stuff. Yeah. I think BYU's, if I remember correctly, is like for a sport bar. Like they went and effectively gave scholarships to all of the walk-on kids that are on BYU's team. So like my argument would be, if you're the NCAA and you care about education, you care about all this kind of stuff, why is that an issue? Yeah. Now I get, there's principle and there's, you got to make sure everyone's following the rules so that it doesn't get out of hand. I do understand that, but I find the irony in that. That's entertaining.
The principled NCAA? Yes, I understand that.
Well, yeah, that in general. Yeah. Yeah, that for sure. I mean, I think they're absolutely going to get involved. It's a bummer that you hit the nail right on the head. Like the fact that it's Jackson State, it's an FCS school, it's an HBCU, it's not one of these typical 5-6 schools that we see getting the top 5-10 recruits. It's almost like it bamboozled everybody, and especially the coaches. And to be honest with you, it's a bit of like a spoiled little kid mentality if you look at it. I mean, you look at the quotes by Dabo Swinney, which I think last time I said, as soon as Dabo gets mad about something, it means it's working. So like This stands true today. He's talking about tampering and education is out the window. And Dabo, you ain't getting paid $9 million, whatever the hell it is, to get these kids educated. All of your kids can make the honor roll. You could have the season you had this year. If you have it 2 times in a row, Clemson's going to dump you. It
Yeah.
is what it is. Like,
Yep.
you're here to make money, buddy. Like, you're mad that your OC is gone. You're mad that your offensive coordinator, your defense coordinator, your AD. Now you're on your own, and now you got to find different ways to compete for these kids, because now these kids have a little bit more buying power and what they're doing, a little bit more leverage and where they can go.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's going to piss you off, and yeah, you're going to complain about it, and yeah, you're probably going to hear about that from the top 10, 15 programs, because now it's one more thing they have to worry about. But at no point during this conversation do I hear anything about them talking about how it negatively affects the student athletes, how it negatively affects their ability to get a degree, how it negatively affects their ability to support their family. None of those things seem to come into consideration. It affects their recruiting class ranking. Therefore, it is bad, is pretty much what I'm hearing from the top crew. And okay, yeah, maybe Deion is connected to Barstool. Maybe Barstool is looking into doing something with it. Who cares? Adapt to the new reality. It is what it is. Everyone wants to try and complain and roll the candle back. That's not going to happen. So you can either adapt and learn what the new situation is, and you can find a way to work with these kids and what the new reality is, or you can continue to slide on your recruiting, and you can continue to slide in the media, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, one of the thoughts that I had when they start talking about, Deion's content deal with Barstool and how, Barstool has its own NIL program and stuff like that. I'm like, if that's the case, where Barstool is assisting in the recruiting through legitimate NIL deals, what you're going to see is more coaches looking for deals like this. So coaches are like, wait a second. So Deion is getting paid by Barstool. He now has, and this is pure speculation on my part, but Deion's getting paid by Barstool to have the deal that he has. Barstool has this NIL program where they're signing different athletes and things like that. Mind you, I don't know really what's part of the Barstool deals. Maybe at some point I'll reach out to one of the wrestlers that as a Barstool athlete and see kind of what their incentives and stuff like that are. But it could very well just be like Portnoy said when he was like, I don't know what it's going to be. You want to fly first class to a Barstool party? We'll fly you in. You need some t-shirts, you need some gear. We'll get this to you, and then I think, when Gable Steveson won the Olympic gold and they created t-shirts, they're like 80% of this goes to Gable. Barstool keeps 20%, 80% goes to Gable. You know what I mean? So from my standpoint, like, that's a pretty good deal as an athlete, right? But do more coaches try and sign deals with these other, corporations, right? These other companies, because then they're like, maybe I can leverage this in my favor where I'm getting paid. I can go to the company that I have a contract with and say, hey, listen, you come here, we'll get you an NIL deal with the company that I already have stake in. Because that's what they're saying about Deion. They're saying, well, Deion was able to come in with more money, throw a bigger bag of money on the table, and that's what swayed this kid. If that's the case, then so be it. Because last time I checked, throwing big bags of money on the table it's like, that's America's pastime, is throw money at a problem. You need something, you throw money at it, essentially. Because that's all they were doing with
scholarships. That's been okay
anyway.
for everyone but student athletes. You can do it to a coach. You can do it to an administrator. You can do it to a booster. You can do it to a sponsor. God forbid the person who is on the field creating the product that makes you all that money plays the same game. Yeah. Then all of a sudden we got a problem with it. Yeah. It's stupid. Like it's amazing how stupid that is. And the NCAA has operated essentially as an indentured servitude model since the 50s when they didn't want to pay for workers' comp. And now all of a sudden we're in 2020 and we just cannot believe that the people that are working for these revenue generating teams especially want to have a piece of the pie or a piece of their own personal pie if they're the sole reason the company or a business is coming to the school in the first place. Yeah.
And like I said, I've said this before, I'm all for students being able to make money off their name, image, and likeness, because God forbid, and I'm part of the free internship era where I was an intern and got nothing but credibility out of it, right? Where, everybody's like, hey, you're going to school, you have this opportunity, you should, take advantage of this opportunity. Oh, these students are getting free room and board and they're getting education and they're getting this. Yep, you're right. But then I'm also going out there and I'm risking injury on a Saturday for you to be entertained. And then, yes, I go back to the warm bed that I have, but there's no food in the fridge. I can't just go and get something. I mean, at this point they can, because at one point you couldn't, but like, say I want to go and have a nice meal. Say I want to, have a hot meal. Why am I not entitled to that? Right. But everybody wants to say they are getting paid. They're getting paid because they don't have to pay for their education and whatever else. Okay, well, let's really equate that, right? How much money do these schools make off of Trevor Lawrence at Clemson? Is it enough in 1 year? I'm sure that it was enough for Trevor Lawrence to pay for his entire career as a student. They made enough money and then some off of Trevor Lawrence, and could probably pay for a number of other students through the money that they made from the football team. I'm sure. Pretty positive about that. But you want to say that, he's making this much money through his free tuition and free room and board and whatever else. Okay, well then let's truly look at it then. Take the money that is, equated to me, that I'm bringing into this school, put that towards my free room and board and my tuition. Cool. The rest of it goes to me then. If that's the case, if you were saying that, I'm being paid through this, then fine. Let's make a deal where you're able to take the money that I'm bringing in and put that towards my tuition, and then the rest goes to me. I think that's kind of fair from the student's aspect, and if you don't think that it is, there's a big problem, right? But like I said, I just feel that it's finally great that these athletes are able to make money off their name, image, and likeness. However, Travis Hunter ended up at Jackson State. If it's not against the rules, which we have seen time and time again, year after year, that so many rules recruiting wise are broken and continue to be broken recruiting wise, it's going to continue to happen. But if everything was above board, Deion went in and said, listen, we're going to pay for your school for 4 years. We can also potentially set you up with this NIL deal. Or Deion said, I already have somebody from Barstool who wants to speak to you, and made a connection business wise. Why is that a bad thing? It's not a bad thing, right? And then you have other players. What was her name? It's kind of escaped me right now. Where's my notes here? Rylan Turner, who just signed with Nike. First person to ever sign with Nike, right? Like, that's a big deal. You're getting these college players to sign with these big corporations. And it's not just that they're signing and saying, all right, I'm going to wear a Nike shoe for, my career, or I'm going to wear a Nike sweatshirt on camera or any other time, or I get sweet Nike gear. She's like, I want to actually like make a difference in these communities, right? Like, that's the part of these NIL deals that I like, is where you're seeing these players that are like, I'm going to make a difference. There were some players that handed out turkeys or some of them that donated, Thanksgiving meals and stuff like that. Like, that's the part of the NIL deals that I'm like loving. You have all these different situations. Quinn Ewers trying to help out his family. I'm sure Travis Hunter wants to do the same thing. Rylan Turner wants to exact some change in her communities within, the communities that she's from. Why is this a bad idea? Why do people not want other people to be able to make money off of their own hard work? Could you imagine if, and I'm sure you can, because like I said, we're part of that unpaid internship year where you walk in, you're like, I can bring this, and this to the table. Boss is like, I love you. This is great. We're going to pay you an experience. I mean, it sucked to know that, but like, could you imagine telling a 30-year-old that? Like, I graduated college and, I'm walking in and I'm trying to get this job, and they're like, oh, awesome. This is great. Well, we're going to give you some free perks. You're going to get free room and board. You won't have any bills to pay, and you get to work here. And that's about it. People would riot if that was the case. They would absolutely riot.
100%.
So like, I don't know. I can't really wrap my mind around people that are like, college players shouldn't be paid. You're ruining the amateur sports. Once you get to a certain level, it's no longer amateur. It just really isn't. It really, truly isn't.
Well, that's the reality of it, right? I mean, you have a little bit more of that when it comes to some of the non-revenue generating sports in college, and still the argument still stands. But the easiest sort of examples to look at are basketball and football, just because those are men's basketball and football, just because of the college tournament, college football economy. Those are quite literally on their own billion-dollar economies with a B. So to sit there and say that you're ruining the game, you're taking away the amateurism of it and whatnot, it's not that anymore. That's not what it is. The thing you're upset about is that you now don't get that piece of the pie. It's and I wish that they would just be more honest about it. Like I almost feel like it would be easier at the end of the day if they just said like, "Hey, we just want more of the money, and like this has been really good for us. We don't have to pay. We're a nonprofit organization as the NCAA, so like we don't really pay taxes as long as we prove that we're spending all the money that we are making, but we don't want you to have any of it. Like that's not." So, and it's an easy tagline to get behind. It's a buzzword for people that have not been involved in the college sports ecosystem as a player, as an administrator, as a coach, anything like that. It's easy to just sort of see it as this thing off in the distance. And so if the people that are writing all the articles tell you that it's going to change the game or it's going to change how it appears, you as a fan, like from an entertainment value, you're just looking at it and going, oh no, the products that I consume might change in a way that I don't like, therefore I don't like this. So I can't blame the folks who have that kind of response if you haven't been involved in what that is. But to hear sort of the breakdown of what it is student athletes really want, what it is that's really being put up to market, that when you are aware of that and you're still choosing to actively try to not pay student athletes, that's where it confuses me. And to your point, like, and I wrote a couple notes here on some things that you said, like, you know, because it is a business, you should be able to market to these kids like it is a business. My wife is going through recruiting right now with companies. She's an engineer, and companies are mentioning to her like who they work with, who they're connected with, who she can build relationships with. That is the name of the game. That's in any other business setting. You align yourself with folks who can help you grow in your career beyond just that place. You set yourself up for personal development and for personal success. Why would we not expect that from student athletes at this point? When you have that opportunity and you have that leverage, they're not offering Ohio State $1.4 million for an NIL deal. They're offering Quinn Ewers $1.4 million for an NIL deal. So like that is his money for him to choose where he goes and spends it. That just is what it is. And so you are at the behest of that person if you're talking about those different things. And when you know that kind of money is floating around and that's what those types of options are there, you're going to explore all of your options. It's just the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
And for example, and to your point on Deion being connected to Barstool and there being some connections, they're like, first off, cool, I don't care, live your life. Like that's who he has a connection with. Sweet. Nobody has a problem with the Texas offensive line all getting paid $50,000 a year to just do general charitable activities throughout the year. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure the person who structured that NIL deal is a booster of Texas. So like, why is that just a fine thing that happens and now we're helping young men become better men? But this guy wants to go play for Deion, which again, Deion Sanders, like that alone could be
that's a head scratcher.
Reason that he's having success at Jackson State. Of course he's going to do. Like, why is that an issue? I don't understand that at all.
Yeah.
And finally, to your point about, thinking about the impact that these kids have on the schools as a whole. I mean, that's the crux of the issue, right? Like these schools, maybe the argument is, oh, well, more of the money is getting pulled away into these individuals' pockets. So less money is going to the school. The school can't make as much of an impact on the students that they're having. Just for fun numbers, the University of Cincinnati, who is currently undefeated and just is headed to their first college football playoff, saw an uptick of 11% in their applications this year, which equates to just over 23,000 people who have applied. So just for fun numbers, if you roll that out, the average tuition, if you take in-state tuition, out-of-state tuition, if you average them together, it's about $19,800 for 4 years, for a total of 4 years. Or I'm sorry, for 1 year, it's college. For 1 year, that's just tuition and fees. We're not talking about board. We're not talking about food. We're not talking about books. We're not talking about other shit you got to buy when you're in college because they decide you got to buy it. Yeah. Just to exist in those classrooms for a year, on average, is $19,800 to the University of Cincinnati.
Stretch that out to 4 years, to be honest.
Yeah, The Thursday tuition is $12K. I mean, that really, like, I hate that I look at that and I'm like, oh, all right, but like, let's go. So you look at that, bring that out to 4 years. That's roughly $80,000 for someone to fully go through a full 4-year stretch at the University of Cincinnati. 23,000 applicants going through 4 years of college. That's roughly $1.8 billion of revenue potential for the University of Cincinnati because those kids won football games.
Yeah.
So if you're going to sit there and tell me that that's just going to completely take away all of the academic opportunities for the kids at University of Cincinnati, just on the potential that they built on those games, you have almost $2 billion to play with. So like if a guy wants to sign a deal to be able to eat Chipotle for lunch every day while he's at the University of Cincinnati, maybe we just let him have lunch.
Yeah.
Like it's a concept, but like maybe just let him have lunch.
Yeah. It's insane to me. I mean, and we've discussed the point that a lot of people like to make is they're getting a free tuition and everything else. Okay. Well then next time that he's going to take a chemistry exam, I'm going to sell you a ticket for you to go watch him take a chemistry exam. And when he gets any question correctly, I expect for you to cheer like he just crossed the goal line, because you don't do that. Like you really don't care that Matt Leinert's senior year at USC, he was taking like VCR programming. That's not an exaggeration. That was literally a class that was on his schedule where it was like something along those lines of like VCR programming. You didn't care that was the class he was taking. You were like, oh, well, he's, great. And he's getting a free ride and this, that, whatever. But like, you were more worried that he completed the pass to Reggie Bush than anything. You were happier to see these guys scoring touchdowns. You didn't care what type of grades he had. And don't kid yourself for a second if you say, well, I want my student athletes to be great in the classroom, whatever. You didn't care if he got up and went to class at 8 a.m. or if he had somebody else taking the test for him. You don't.
Yeah.
You truly, truly don't. So like, that's the case is you care. And the reason why people are mad about Travis Hunter is because he is not going to be wearing a spear on his helmet. He's going to be wearing, the J on his chest or the J on his helmet for Jackson State. You know what I mean? Like he's not going to be sitting in Florida. And if he is in Florida, it's probably because he's playing against your team and he's torching them. So you're upset that you can't watch him on Saturday. You can't watch, you can't watch him play Clemson. That's what you're upset about. And the thing is you still can watch him play these teams. You can watch him play these games. The competition is different. His uniform's different. That's the difference. But you're mad that he's not playing for one of your favorite, FBS teams. He's going to an FCS school. He's going to an HBCU. The playing field is getting completely laid flat. It's not, I probably shouldn't say flat, but it is starting to level out just a little bit here for these schools. Deion is doing some great things at Jackson State, brought in both his kids. The thing is his son, who is their quarterback, was looking at going to Florida State, even while Deion was coaching at Jackson State, was looking at playing for Willie Taggart. And actually, Willie Taggart left Florida State and was coaching somewhere else. And his son actually commit to Willie Taggart at his new school. I think it was FAU, I believe, is where he was going to go. And then changed his mind and said, no, I'm going to go play for my dad at Jackson State. We're going to do some really cool things. His other son was at South Carolina for, I believe, a year or two. Was a defensive back there, and now transferred to Jackson State and plays for his dad. Like these aren't the first high level recruits, high level players that are like, I'm going to go to Jackson State. There's a legacy over here at Jackson State. Deion's creating something that is absolutely amazing. They played in front of thousands of people. They sold out their stadium. The infusion of just like school pride and everything that Deion has brought to that. Why would you not want to be a part of that? You don't need to be a part of the college game days in order to have a great college experience. I wasn't. I wore that helmet and went to that school, and I had an awesome time. And I'm, about to be inducted into the school's Hall of Fame with my team from 2006 in a couple of weeks. I wouldn't change that for anything. You know what I mean? So like, why is that such a big deal that he wanted to go somewhere else? The big deal is because he was supposed to go to a school that everyone wanted him to go to, and he changed his mind at the last minute. And now he's not going to be playing on Saturday for the school that you wanted to see him at. I mean, like I said, as a Florida State fan, I wanted to see him at that school. Obviously, as a Florida State fan, I wanted to see him, rocking the spear on Saturdays, but he's not. But at the end of the day, I want the kid to be happy because I know what it's like going through that college experience. And if I would have went to a different school, who knows how my life would have turned out. But, every decision is your own decision. So, when you're at that high level of a recruit, everybody's going to have some sort of, opinion, and everyone's going to have something to say. I mean, there was a guy on Twitter that even like took his Deion memorabilia jersey that's framed and signed. It's got a name placard on it. Deion's nameplate is on it and everything. And he threw it in a fire and was like, Deion, and with some stupid diatribe on Twitter. And, Marcus Spears was like, man, don't burn that jersey. Bring it to me. I'll take it if you don't want it. If you don't want to rep Deion anymore because he's mad. You're mad that he took a recruit. Like, if it's not that big of a deal, guys. It's really not that big of a deal. Florida State's still going to be Florida State. I mean, I wish they were Bobby Bowden, Florida State, winning titles, but they're not right now. But like, let's be serious. Let's be serious. These schools aren't going to crumble because a recruit decided to go where he's happy. That's not the name of the game. It's not, hey, I'm a fan of this school. You got to go here. It's you got to go where you want to go. National Signing Day was huge. There were recruits signing all over the country to go to all these different schools. This one kid shook up the world because he's really, really good. But he put Jackson State's name on your brain even more than Deion already did. So I see that as a good thing where these other schools, these FBS schools, these FCS schools are getting some clout now. They're supposed to. HBCU funding is going up. Why not want to have that experience? I've been to a couple of HBCUs and seen the games. I'm like, man, like this is an incredible atmosphere. My dad went to an HBCU. He went to North Carolina A&T. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing, these atmospheres. Like I said, I wouldn't change it for a second, but like the atmospheres at these schools are awesome. So why wouldn't he want to go there? Play for a legacy coach with a legacy team that's doing things that they haven't done in the last 7 or 8 years, winning championships, winning the SWAC, going to, the playoffs, having a winning record, having a Hall of Fame coach. You're checking all these boxes for me here. And now I get to make money on top of it. Now I get to, have, like I said, a Hall of Fame coach. Like, I don't know if that's being stated enough. Like, it is Deion freaking Sanders who does everything he wants to do. He played 2 sports professionally and did it in the same day. Played for the Braves, played for the Falcons on the same day. Come on. Like, let's be serious here, guys. Like, it's kind of a no-brainer, but everyone is, like I said, they're going to have their opinions about it. I have my own opinion about it. I've been speaking about it for, however long we've been on this, but like, I'm not going to gripe about it. I'm happy for the kid. I'm happy that he's getting to go to where he wants to go. So like, NIL deals, they're going to level the playing field. I can't wait to see kind of what they bring to the table across the board. D1, D2, D3, NAIA, like, go make some money. Like, it's you. Imagine being told that you can't make money off of you. That's insane. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, it has been insane for years and years. And yeah, you're exactly right. Like, this is just, it's created a viable opportunity for these schools that have amazing tradition, amazing opportunities, amazing academic. I mean, insert whatever here, like, they're competitive up and down for these other FBS schools. And now you have something that can even the playing field from the standpoint of like, hey, just come look at us. Like, you're not writing off these opportunities if you come and play for an FCS school, for a Division II school, for an HBCU school. Just come visit and see if you like it. Because at the end of the day, I would argue that you have to still like the school. You have to still enjoy your coach. You have to still feel comfortable in the environment that you're in. Yes, the NIL deals are strong, but you're going to get those at any of these places now. So when you go and visit, that can almost sit in a box up in the corner. And now you can decide if these other things add up. And if they do, if that's Jackson State, if that's Florida State, if that's the University of Texas, if that's Prairie View A&M out here near Houston, then it is. And you get to go there. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Does anybody think that Travis Hunter wouldn't have had NIL deals thrown at him left and right, even if he went somewhere else? Like, that's the thing, is everybody's like, oh,
Yeah.
he's getting this NIL guarantee. You're talking about one of the top recruit in the country. Do you think the NIL deals would have just been like, nope, he's going to Florida State. Nope, he's going to Jackson State. We can't do, like, are you dumb? Like, how dumb can you possibly be? The kid is going to a school, he's in college, and can make money off his name, image, and likeness. That, like, the people that are throwing NIL deals at him, they didn't care what was on his jersey. They wanted him. They obviously want him to go out there and play the game the way he can play the game and show out, because it ultimately makes them look better. But whether his jersey was blue or or he had a spear on his helmet, like, nobody, they're like, we want Travis Hunter. You know, we want Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers, he's leaving Ohio State, but like, those NIL deals go with him to Texas. It doesn't change. The color scheme of the ad might, but that's about it. But everybody's tied to all these different excuses for why kids go to where they go. At the end of the day, he's an 18-year-old kid. If I'm an 18-year-old kid and you say I can make this many zeros and just play the sport that I want to play and get an education and set myself up and my family up for the next, I don't know, however many years, and set up, potentially set up generational wealth, I'm good, and I'm going to sign, and I'm going to go there. It's just what it's about. So, like you said, insert opportunity here, but insert, shitty opinion here for, the NIL deals of the good old boys that don't want to see anybody make money off their name, image, and likeness just to play a sport. It's just like, he's talented. You're talented at what you do, even if what you do is painting or, fixing cars. You still expect to be paid for what you do. Why can't he? Deion still had to do the recruiting. I understand, like I said, it's Deion Sanders, and me being a fan of his, I would have signed on the dotted line immediately upon him calling. But like, he still has to create that culture. He still has to create the buzz that he has. He still has the resume that he has for a reason. The proof is in the pudding. There's a reason that kid is ranked as high as he is. There's a reason Deion is who he is. Match made in heaven, if you ask me.
Yeah, they don't give the student athletes enough credit. That's the problem.
Yeah,
they just assume they're all idiots, so they're all getting taken to the cleaners, they're all getting whatever else, and like, maybe they just, I don't know, have a little bit more autonomy now.
Yeah, everything's a shady deal apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when it doesn't fit into the line of how they want it to go, something's wrong. We have to investigate this thing. Things don't seem right. Yeah. So it'll be fun to watch that for the next however long they want to keep getting clicks on it.
Yeah, that's for damn sure. And I fully expect the NCAA, and I'm sure that they have been trying to legislate the shit out of this since, letting it go. They were like, hey, listen, you guys want to make money off your name, image, like this? Go. And behind the scenes, they're just taking notes of all the different things that have come in. They've got a couple schools that they're investigating right now, but the NCAA is going to NCAA at some point. And you know what they do when they do it, and you never like it because it's something really dumb.
What NIL looks like today is going to be completely different from what it looks like 12 months from now, 24 months from now, 36 months from now. So it's a constant learning situation. So like, if you're not keeping up with it, or if it's not working in your favor right now, get better. Yep. You're a coach. You're getting paid $100 million to do this thing. Do it better.
Yeah.
That's your problem.
You can't just say, hey, we're Clemson anymore. It doesn't work. It's not how it works anymore. You can't just say, hey,
you have to actually be a coach. You have to create opportunities for your kids. What a concept. Like, it's amazing. What a concept. Like, jump in the stream a little bit, buddy. See what it's like. Come check out the rest of us.
You got to do the work. And if I follow Deion on like every social media. The man does the work. He truly does the work. And for anyone to say that he doesn't, I mean, he had surgery on his foot, had like a motorized scooter. He's had every sort of anything mobile to put himself on the sideline to be there for his team. So he didn't miss games. He's done it. So like, the man puts in the work. He's out there grinding. Do the same, and you can continue to do this. I mean, this is only one domino. Can you imagine if they continue to fall from these high-level schools, where these high-level recruits continue to just commit to HBCUs or commit to FCS schools because of these other opportunities that now you know, now, you know, who knows, Howard can be like, come on over. We're doing this over at Howard and you get this. You know, Morgan State can do the same thing. So like, I think it's, like I said, playing field is getting leveled. You can't just walk in, say, look, we're Clemson. That's what we do. Hey, look, we're Ohio State. This is what we do. Hey, we're Alabama. This is what we do. That's cool. What else you got now? Now, you can't just be the prime rib anymore. You got to come, you know, with some sides. And these student athletes, they want some sides and they're going to get them. And they're going to be fully on the up and up. And they're going to make money and they're going to grind and they're going to do very well. So, you know, one of the things that I noticed that I saw Deion do that, you know, and like I said, I don't really follow too many other coaches. But like you see them talk about the academic side of things. You see Deion talk about those things, you know, so like it's a big deal for him to make sure that his team is on the academic side doing very well, you know, and that they look the part. I mean, he obviously has NFL connections. Michael Strahan came in, got each one of his guys a couple of suits through his clothing line so that they dressed the part when they were going on trips as well. He's doing things to set these guys up to be professional on that next level and not just on the field. And they're also having fun doing it. Sign. Where do I sign? You know, you got a job for me? I'll sign on the dotted line tomorrow. So, I mean, when you do things right, the dominoes fall in your favor. Not to say that, you know, these other schools aren't doing things right, but they're just, you know, getting out hustled.
Yeah. I mean, invest in your kids, see what happens. Simple as that.